Hey y'all, so this week we're talking about space. Now, you should already know that space can refer to an object's relationship to the viewer. Like, if things are up close, they can be really big, and if things are far away, they tend to be smaller. But we're also talking about positive and negative space. So here's an example of positive and negative space. We have an example of a vase, and the black background in the vase can be negative space, and the actual people and the designs on the vase can be our positive space. Now, we could also view this as the entire vase being our positive space and our white space background being our negative space. So negative space and positive space does serve a purpose. And it typically is used to help emphasize what's going on in a picture and kind of block out everything else that's going on. So here's an example. And I'm sorry, I had to turn off the light to try and get rid of the glare. But this is a picture of Mount Vesuvius erupting over Pompeii. And the very first thing you notice is the volcano in this. And that is the positive space. Now the background is very dark, it's very foggy. That would be the negative space. And the only reason this volcano stands out so readily is because the background is so dark and foggy. This helps with the overall feel. So now you're going to go find an object in your house that has a complex form and take a picture of it. This does not mean cubes, rectangular prisms, spheres, even pyramids or cylinders. You really want something more complicated like this stool, but it doesn't have to be quite as complicated as this stool. Now let's go into Sketch of School. Click on the three little dots at the top, the box with the arrow pointing in, Photo, and go ahead and take your picture that you took. Resize it so it's nice and big in the center of the screen, and when you're done, hit the check mark. Now first, we need to check to make sure that if we draw on top of the picture and hit the eyeball, that it'll disappear and keep our drawing. If you wait to do this, when you get to the end, you're going to have to redo a lot of work. Now for this drawing, you need to use black color ink, and I'm going to use the second pen tool on the smallest setting. Let's zoom all the way in, making sure I get that black ink. Now we are going to trace the negative space in this drawing. Make sure you are very careful and take your time and line up exactly with your object. So for this assignment, the positive space is going to be your object. Negative space is everything else in the background. So you are going to zoom in and trace all of the negative space that you see. Here is an example of what your drawing should start to look like. Notice that I am not just tracing the stool like I am right now. This is the wrong way to do it. So let me hit undo, and we're zooming in and tracing the areas where the stool is not. Do not let your lines cross. Just allow them to touch. Our object is done. Now we're going to hit our eyeball and check our line work. See why we practiced this the first week? So you should be able to tell what your object is just from your line work. We're doing this so we can go back and check and make sure we didn't miss anything. We're also going to erase where our lines crossed one another and go back in and make sure all of our lines are touching. It is very important that all of our lines are touching for this next part. So make sure that all of your shapes are closed in.
Now, before we do the very last thing, it might be a good idea to go ahead and save your artwork now. I know that Sketches School saves automatically, but just so you have a copy of where you are right now in this process. For this next part, we're using the paint roller tool. You can use any amount of color and you can use any color. And what you're going to do is just tap inside of a shape. Make sure you're not drawing or moving your finger. You're just typing. And if your lines are not closed in, you might fill in your entire object. So I'm zooming back in and trying to figure out where my line isn't closed, and then I'm going to close it. Make sure you use black ink for this. Now I can go back to my paint roller tools, make sure you choose the same color, and you can continue tapping and finish filling in all the negative space. You might have to zoom in so that it's easier to see where to tap. Perfect. Now when you're done, save your drawing and upload it to Seesaw using the template I have for you in your assignment.
Here's a big secret. You will need this picture for next week's assignment, so make sure you take your time and do a good job on it. And if you've watched all the way to the end of this video, thanks for watching.